coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to kind of a delayed sober talk uh, stream. We're going to kick this off here just shortly. We're going to get into the big book. Um, so, um, um, Kind of impromptu. We were doing some serious cleaning last night, and I had to postpone some stuff. Actually, it carried us into a good while into the evening. We're still not there yet. The apartment was kind of like, we got to do something about this because it was actually affecting my capabilities of getting any content done. So it was out of hand. Um, so we got it on. It's a lot better in there, so I can actually start getting some work done. But it was to the point where it was actually affecting how things go. So we're going to get to reading the big book just as soon as I finish my smoke. And don't know if a whole lot of people will be in. I mean, it's summertime and it's Friday, so a lot of people are going to be out and about. Um, you know, uh, so that sort of thing. So that's kind of what's going to be going on today. I don't suspect a whole lot of people coming in. Might get a few. Might get a few. Usually, we go, uh, live. Usually in the evening time. It's pretty rare we do one this early in the day, but we had to postpone. Basically. So, yeah, it was a disaster last night. Matter of fact, like I said, the apartment is still coming together right now. So that's kind of the game plan. So we're basically I'm playing catch up from yesterday, and I didn't even get to do the collab last night. It was we were working till late in the evening last night. Matter of fact, I'm still cleaning. I'm still cleaning right now. I'm still playing catch up with a lot of stuff today. A lot of stuff. So, um, as soon as I finish my smoke, we'll get underway. But yeah, sometimes life happens when you know when you get sober. Life happens still. You got to take care of business, and it was ridiculous. It was actually cutting into the point where it was like I can't work. You know, the space that I need is cluttered. You know, and I noticed that real quick yesterday. I'm like, we got to do something about this. That and it's one of those things that you can only tolerate it so long. So we shampooed the carpets and everything, and this is all stuff that if you get sober, I mean, normal everyday people do this, but it's like um, one of those things that when you get into sobriety, you really don't. You're just you get back to the flow of life and doing what everybody else does. So that's just one of those things. Um, so yeah, so I've been dealing with all of that. It's definitely been interesting to say the least. Um, oh, what happened to the collab yesterday? Hang on, Ian. I'll let them know real quick. I'm live. Sorry about that. But that's kind of the gist of it. Um, you know, things happen, life happens, and you really, from everybody else, normal everyday people, they really don't think about it. It's like, well, the apartment's, home is a disaster, so I need to, go take care, go do this. And hey, there you are. How you doing, Raven? So we really had to get this taken care of. And the office is still a train wreck, but I don't work out of the office like I used to. Mostly the office has just kind of almost become storage and come I'm doing good, doing real good. Uh, uh, just playing catch up right now. uh, you know, and later on tonight will be Faye's Corner. Um, so that's just kind of the gist of it. And, you know, actually, I'm running behind on Sober Talk. We're early today for a stream, but I'm playing catch up on Sober Talk. Uh, we had basically yesterday, it's like we had to get the apartment straightened out because filming and a lot of stuff that I need to do for the channel, I couldn't do because the apartment had just gotten cluttered to the point where it's like, we got to do something about this. Thank you, Raven. Appreciate that. So I had to put a lot of stuff and kind of start pushing a little stuff back. I'm doing good. Just having a quick smoke before we go and do a reading of the big book. Because I think we're getting ready to start one particular chapter and kind of go through it and everything. I think we're actually on chapter 2, We Agnostics. We Agnostics. I think. I don't remember. When we did Bill's story, I think we're actually might be on. We might have. There's a solution. We're on. Okay, I know where we're at. So that's kind of the gist of it right now. We're just playing. And I'm playing catch up from yesterday. Um, I'm playing catch up right now, and it was like we had to get this all taken care of. It was out of hand. I couldn't do anything because of how out of hand the apartment had gotten, and it's still not right. I can't film any cooking stuff. I couldn't film anything really. I tried to film, and it was like we got to do something about this. And I mean, I got what I needed, but it's like it could have been a whole lot better. And then there's locations in the apartment that I really need for filming, and it's just too cluttered. I can't do anything, you know. She's zonked right now, cleaning all morning too. Uh, long before this stream, so she's out like a light right now. We're actually even throwing stuff out, getting rid of it all because of just how cluttered the apartment had gotten. It was just to the point where it was like we can't even work out of our apartment, for the channel, and so we had to do something. So here we are. We're doing something about it. You know, and of course the office is still a train wreck right now. So we're playing, like I said, we're kind of playing catch up on everything, and I mean everything. Um, you know, I give you, hey, what's going on, Sean? Good to see you. So right now, like I said, I'm still kind of, we're still kind of straightening out the train wreck of an apartment that we got going on, and you know, let's see what we can do about this because that glare is just not doing it. So let me get situated here. Sure that. Come on, you dirty rotten dog. Get in there. Oh yeah. Good and snug. Alrighty. So that's kind of the gist of it right now. We're just kind of going through and getting things kind of squared away because I've actually got some pretty neat projects. And there. Hey, what's going on, Grave Taker? Good to see you guys. Um, but right now, like I said, I'm kind of playing catch up on everything right now, and I mean everything. Um, you know, so that's kind of what's going on. Like I said, we the apartment is just ridiculous right now. Just ridiculous. I can't even hardly work out of it at the moment. It's just that bad. Um, you know, I've got I got to do something about this. I can't work like this. As a matter of fact, you know, I can't even I can't even shoot any film in here like I normally do for one particular video. So that's why I said we're playing catch up on everything. I'm doing good. Just been doing a lot of cleaning because it got out of hand over here. Just too much clutter, too much clutter. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to have to even limit some of my projects. Um, Give you a really cool idea. This is one that we're getting ready to do. Basically, taking hey Ian, uh, we're going to take this and turn it into something that resembles something out of Viking culture. We're going to turn this into something really nice. Don't really like the handle, so we're going to get rid of the handle. That should give you an idea. How's Spirit? I have not had a chance to do anything to Spirit. Matter of fact, that's the brand new fender right there. Um, we did an unboxing of it the other day. It was pretty cool, you know. Um, we're hoping to begin. Yes, I did like that, Ian. We'd already been awake, but the problem is we've been trying to get the apartment cleaned up. I legit could not get any filming done. I mean, I got a couple of scenes for a video that I'm working on, that sort of thing, but that was the best I could do. And it's like I'm at a standstill on some of my shoots because I can't get any work done. It's to the point where it's like, okay, I got to do something about this. And yeah, I know y'all can understand that. So, but yeah, I can't even scoot back really because there's just too much bullshit in the way. And it's like I got to do something about this. I can't work. Can't work, you know. All righty. Uh, yeah, too many projects, and it's like I'm getting ready to start throwing out projects, but you guys get the general idea. Yes. So we are on chapter 3. Thank goodness I was smart enough to mark the spot. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Da, 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 da. Oh, and well, we'll talk about that here in a bit. All right. Page 30 of the big book. More about alcoholism. This kind of starts. You're ready with your questions. I love it. I love it because Ian a lot of times will ask the questions that people are afraid to ask or don't think to always ask. And it's like, well, that is a good question. And it keeps me on my toes because I used to do what is known as public information. And my job was to provide information to the public if there was any questions, you know. So it keeps me on my toes with that job if I ever do it again for AA. All righty, which that's all volunteer work, if you will. We call it something different, but that's the easiest way I can describe it. Most of us have been unwilling to admit that we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. This persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it to the gates of insanity or death. We've learned that we had to fully concede in our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently may be, has to be smashed. We alcoholics are like men and women who have lost their ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals were usually brief and were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. Let me take a moment and say that when an alcoholic of my nature, or a drug addict of my nature, okay, alcoholic addict, our choice of oblivion is just what changes. The All the personality traits are the same as an alcoholic, a drug addict, alcoholic, it's the same, okay? The only thing that really changes is the, if you will, no, that's a good question. All righty, let me put it this way. In the old days, an alcoholic, there was no treatment of any sort. An alcoholic drank until they were dead, or they would be they would actually take brain damage. What they would refer to back in the old days, basically brain damage that was brought on by excessive drinking, was called wet brain, okay? Delirium tremors, or tremens, as it's sometimes called, is basically the body becomes so dependent on alcohol that the alcoholic will go into an uncontrollable physical shaking, similar to what you might see with some people that have seizures. And the entire time, they're seeing shit that isn't there. Hence, delirium, and they're shaking uncontrollably, tremens or tremors. We don't see this as much as we used to, because there is treatment. But when they're talking about the gates of insanity, basically the delirium, tremens, or they would develop wet brain. And there is still cases where you will find someone pretty much comatose due to excessive alcohol, their alcoholism being untreated. So in the old days, when they would reach that point where they could no longer take care of themselves anymore, you locked them up in a sanitarium. So that is why you'll hear the gates of insanity, because they're no longer able to function in society. You locked them up in a sanitarium, or death. They literally would drink themselves to where they would die. Every case was a little bit different back then, and you still occasionally hear some of that today. But because of treatment, the psychiatric work and work in Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and within the hospitals, just the medical community really stepping up. That is why we don't think of it that way anymore. so much, but it does still happen. As a matter of fact, you could legitimately. What the heck is this disastrous bullshit? Okay, I'll have to look at that in a bit. Um, you legitimately could easily say that, and this, well, basically, this still applies today, that um, relapse brings about one of three things. Well, you get sometimes a person might recover from that relapse. In other cases, they end up in jail, they end up dead, or they end up in some sort of institution because you can still drink yourself to the point of insanity. As a matter of fact, there's a state hospital, you know, a couple of towns away from where I live that actually has cases of where people drank themselves to the point where they can no longer take care of themselves and they're permanently institutionalized. Okay. So I hope that answers your question. That's a solid question. That's a damn good one. They're not actually talking about religion, religion or spirituality. They're talking about the real deal, where a person can be physically locked up due to their alcoholism, just because they're no longer able to function in society anymore. So that does still happen. A damn good question. Damn good question. Okay, that's another good one. There is a medication on the market right now called Antabuse. Okay. Now, Antabuse is given to chronic alcoholics. And what happens is that if that alcoholic takes the Antabuse, if they try to consume any alcohol whatsoever, they will begin throwing it up. They can't get drunk as long as they're taking Antabuse. Um, and this was discovered, I heard about it back in the 90s, but I've never actually given it while I was still working in nursing. I've never actually had to give that medication. But on the other hand, I have heard of it being used. And as a matter of fact, some folks come into AA having to take Antabuse for a little while to help them kind of get, to stay away for a little bit, because their compulsion is just so difficult. But there is treatment. As a matter of fact, um, I'll skip ahead for just a brief moment. Page 130 of the big book actually talks about work with psychiatric and of course doctors and physicians. You bring up a good question. I went cold turkey, but there was consequences. No, it's not on 130. I'm sorry. Maybe it's 133. Oh, we're not. It's been a little while since I've had to look this one up. Okay, here it is. 133. Now about health. A body badly burned by alcohol does not often recover overnight, nor does twisted thinking and depression vanish in a twinkling. We are convinced that a spiritual mode of living is a most powerful health restorative. We who have recovered from serious drinking are miracles of mental health. But we have seen remarkable transformations in our bodies. Hardly one of our crowds shows any mark of dissipation. Oh, hi, Brooklyn. Welcome to Live. But this does not mean that we disregard human health measures. God has abundantly supplied this world with fine doctors, psychologists, and practitioners
of various kinds. Do not hesitate to take your health problems to such persons. Most of them give freely of themselves that their fellows may enjoy sound minds and bodies. Try to remember that though God has wrought miracles among us, we should never belittle a good doctor or psychiatrist. Their services are often indispensable in treating a newcomer and in following his case afterwards. So, because I try to hold on, I try to use these principles. I'll give you an interesting story. I had to go get my wisdom teeth pulled. I was 30 years old, and I was my wisdom teeth were basically just they were in bad shape. So I had to go to a dentist, and when he went to go, he's like, okay, when I go to pull your teeth, this could happen, this could happen. I said, Doc, just stop where you're at. I said, look, there you go. Thank you for the big thumbs up. I said, look, Doc, I said, I'm a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And at that time, I was like 3, 4 years sober. No, it's not easy. And I'll talk about that in a second. So I said, because I'm in sobriety, and I said, in our main textbook, the Big Book of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, I said, let me say right now that I believe in many of the principles in there. I said, because it saved my life. I said, and in our book, it says, do not belittle a good doctor or practitioner. And I said, so I'm in your hands. Whatever happens, I know that I can trust you with what happens. Okay. If anything goes wrong, I have full confidence that you'll do whatever you'll fix the problem. Big sigh of relief. You could just see the relief just kind of wash over him, and he says, "What book did you get that from?" I said, "The main textbook of Alcoholics Anonymous. It literally is titled Alcoholics Anonymous." I said, "It's our main textbook." He's like, I've never read the book," he said, "but I think I like it already." He said, "Because right now," he said, "I feel very relieved." Okay, that's a good question. Um, what we like to do is basically the recovery process is a spiritual program, but beyond that scope, okay, a spiritual program is nice. It's nice, and notice I'm not saying religion, okay, because the two are actually different. And I might offend some religious types by saying it this way, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Religion is for people who are afraid of hell, okay? Spirituality is for people who've been to hell. That's the difference, okay? I've lived hell in my alcoholism. Hell, the afterlife hell doesn't scare me. It doesn't at all, okay? So now that I've said that, beyond that scope of personal recovery, we have to return to the flow of life. Alcoholics like me, we have to live life, okay? We have to get back out into the world and live life. That's a good question. Let me get to the first one, and then we'll roll into that one. Okay, so we have to get back out there, and basically, beyond the scope of personal recovery, we have to kind of mingle with the rest of the world. Okay. At some point, we have to mingle with the rest of the world. So, in order for us to be able to mingle with the rest of the world, what has to happen? Okay. We need principles, guidelines. Now, I'm not saying that there's a difference between what I'm principles and guidelines. It's just kind of like this is what is suggested. Okay. So you can get back out there into the regular world. We suggest that you do this. Cool. So after we begin our recovery process, because the recovery process is permanent. Okay. As an alcoholic, you never fully recover. Okay. You recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, yes. But if I pick up that drink, I'm no longer recovering from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. So when I go out into the world, the big book, basically the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous set down guidelines for us to kind of mingle with society. And that even includes the professional community. So now that we have that kind of for us, we can now get out and mingle with the rest of the community and kind of live somewhat of a normal everyday life. There you go, Brooklyn. Get to know our folks in blue. They're absolutely fantastic folks. No, you're absolutely fine. I actually understood what you were talking about. You're talking about the physical withdrawals and the compulsion. The withdrawals, everybody's a little bit different. It took me 6 months to stop having severe withdrawals. No, the physical withdrawals where I would actually go into cold sweats, I would be shaking, and my whole body would hurt. It took me 6 months in sobriety, 6 months without a drink or a drug to overcome that. 6 months. Now, for the record, I do, if someone uses regular, just like vanilla extract, in say like baked goods, I have been known to have mild withdrawals again, because despite what some professional cooks will say, you do not completely cook that off. Okay, so 3 weeks for you. For me, like I said, alcohol, it was 6 months. Now, over time, it got less, okay? It wasn't as severe. So I might, back then, when I first started in sobriety, for the first 2 months, I went through where it was every week I would suffer from withdrawals. No, I didn't. I decided that it would not be in my best interest because I was basically working and that sort of thing. Hey, what's going on, Simon? Welcome to the live. I was still working at that time, and I was still so I was holding down a job. I had the apartment, and honestly, I'd already checked into outpatient treatment, so I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to do that at all, and by then I was already in Alcoholics Anonymous. So if I honestly thought I was about to relapse, I would have went over to my sponsor's house and knocked on the door and said, look, I feel like I'm about to drink again. I just need somewhere safe, So I already had my out plan, if you will, in case of the need to relapse. That's a good question. That's a really good question. So the other thing that I'll also tell you, now the compulsion, well, I wouldn't necessarily call that strength. Honestly, okay, really quick. Let me answer the second part of your question, though. The compulsion to drink, honestly never goes away. There are mornings after 15 years, coming up on 15 and a half years. Let me say right now, there are times that I do wake up still and I still want to drink. There are days that I will get aggravated at work and I want to leave work and go get a drink. There are days that after I've left work, it's like, what did I do in the old days? Oh, I would go out and buy a bottle of Crown Royal, go home, and I would drink. So the compulsion for that is still there. You never get over it. There are times that I will have dreams where I will wake up in the middle of the night thinking that I'm drinking. I have those what is oftentimes called relapse dreams. And in my dream, I started again. There are nights that I will wake up, in a cold, nightmarish sweat from that. You never lose the compulsion to drink. It will always be there. I will always deal with that from now until the end of time for me. As long as I am alive, I will struggle with that. Now, is it a lot better than it was, say, when I first got sober? Oh, hell yeah. But is it still there? Yes. You never get over it, which is why I will forever be in recovery. There is no such thing as the ex-alcoholic. There are times that I could be sitting there playing Fortnite with you guys. Honestly, I've seen psychiatrists. There's been times I've had to see a psychiatrist for this. And ironically enough, I told him what was going on and everything. Yes, alcoholism is an addiction. Narcotics Anonymous actually treats it that way. That if you are an addict, you are also an alcoholic. Thank you, Brooklyn. And to answer your question, Ian, I actually have had to see a psychiatrist a few times, get a few nuts and bolts tightened down, if you will. That being said, when they heard what I was doing in AA, their response was, "You're fine." To them, it's normal. As a matter of fact, when I would go in, whenever you see, for someone like myself, when I go into a doctor's office, one of the first things that I have to tell them, if I'm going to ER, the emergency room over here, you guys have a different name for it over there in the UK. I forget what you guys call it. You guys have a totally different name for it. Or I have to go be admitted to see a regular physician or a psychiatrist. One of the first things that out of the gate that I have to tell them, accident and emergency, A&E. Okay, so for you guys, if I have to go to the A&E or I have to go to a regular doctor, cardiologist, it does not matter. If I have to go see someone in the medical community or in the psychiatric or psychology community, the first thing that I have to tell them on admission that I'm in recovery, that I'm a recovering alcoholic. Immediately following saying I'm in recovery, I'm an admitted alcoholic, I'm a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous, my sober date is February 7th, 2006. Immediately by telling them that information, they now know exactly what they can give me and what they can't give me, okay? So upon admission to seeing anyone in the medical community or in the psychiatric or psychology community, the healthcare providers, immediately upon going in and upon my admission, I have to tell them that because I'm going to give you guys a real horror story, okay? We're talking a real horror story in Alcoholics Anonymous. And this happened to one of the fellowship some years back, okay? And what happened, for those that don't know, alcohol reacts with the body like an anesthetic, okay? Um, it is in some parts of the world, they still use alcohol as an anesthetic. Basically, you get them stone cold drunk, and then once they pass out, you start operating. Okay. To give you guys an idea, I'm not the greatest at chemistry, but if you look at the molecule for alcohol and the molecule for ether, which is also an anesthetic, ether. If you look at both of them, basically ether has less water in it, and it has an extra atom of carbon. Okay, so if that should give you any idea, basically, as if you will, ether is basically alcohol without the chaser, if you will. So now that I've kind of said that, alcohol is still used as an anesthetic, and like all medications, since we're going to refer to alcohol as an anesthetic, that's a medication in this case. Because you're treating it like a medication in this, if you will, we build up a resistance to anesthetics. And one particular member of the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous did not tell her surgeon that was going to give her a hip replacement that she was in recovery. And because of that, they put her under anesthetic, and they weren't fully aware of it. They began the surgery. And horribly enough, during the surgery, she had come out of anesthetic just enough that she could hear and feel what was going on, but she was unable to respond. So she had to go through surgery just like that. And if you know anything about hip surgery, basically they cut the ball off of the top of your upper leg. They cut the ball off that, and then they take a spike with a ball fitted to your the hip socket, and they drive that down inside the femur bone, the upper leg. Hence why it is still one of the most barbaric surgeries known to man. Oh, yeah, I guess you would have been. I guess you would have been. So that is why we are so forward with the professional community about our alcoholism, because of things like that. If she had told the doctor and the anesthesiologist right out of the gate, her surgeon and her anesthesiologist, that she was in recovery, that likely would not have happened. But that is an actual true horror story right from the ranks of Alcoholics Anonymous. Yep. It really messed with that poor woman's head. It really did mess with that poor woman's head badly, badly. So yeah, the trauma was real. The trauma was real. So that is why, that is also one of the reasons why that Alcoholics Anonymous continues to work as much as we can with the professional community, due to this. And again, you guys have heard me talk about this. That with Alcoholics Anonymous, we have actually, the best way I could put it, when the United States government put the seal of approval on the disease of alcoholism, declaring it an actual disease. It was back in the 1950s, around 1955, if I remember correctly. Now, for the record, there are still some doctors that do dispute that. They'll say it's a choice. It's a choice. Yeah, the first one was a choice. After that, it's no longer a choice, doctor. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for that, Brooklyn. Yeah, it's no longer a choice after that. And unfortunately, there are still some doctors that don't agree with that. And I will say that the nicest way I can put it, go back to school. You know, you didn't spend enough time in school. Um, Go spend some time in a laboratory, study some brains, alcoholic brains. They're abnormal for a reason. Okay. So beyond that scope, uh, so we're talking around 1955, the U.S. government put its seal of approval declaring alcoholism as an actual disease. Um, and when that happened, the schools, the universities that teach that, you know, that a doctor as you know an intern. Absolutely, absolutely. When we become dependent upon it, it's no longer a choice. So a um, a doctor or an intern becoming a doctor, he will back then he would spend, I think, if I remember correctly, 6 minutes learning about alcoholism back in 1955. The last I had heard today, we're up to 6 hours. That is how little we actually know. 6 hours, the last I heard. Honestly, I don't think that coffee will ever kind of get that stigma. Because I mean, I enjoy coffee, but and yeah, I do get severe headaches when I don't get my caffeine. But there's other stuff to drink, you know. As a matter of fact, when Princess Faye and I went out to the store earlier today, I had to have me some my fruit juice. You know, I'm, you know, healthier living, if you will. I have to have had to have my white grape juice, and I got to have my you know, I have to have my cranberry juice. You know, I like, you know, it's part of taking care of me. Okay, it's part of taking care of me, and because of that, you know, again, we're back to, you know, trying to do right. You know, um, I got to start taking care of me a little bit more. Sucks. So that is kind of where we stand on this. So um, those are good questions, really good questions. Um, Man, just the right phrase left y'all kind of wondering, does this still happen? Yes, unfortunately, it still happens. I remember reading a couple years ago, AA has its own magazine called The Grapevine. And The Grapevine is not. Absolutely, go for it, man. You know me, I'll go for it. The truth of it is that in, you know, a lot of people are still learning. Yeah, I'd be a caffeine addict, but you know, I don't know. You know, I don't know beyond the scope of if anyone has ever been to, well, actually, I have heard of a few people that Coca-Cola did to them what alcohol did to me. That's crazy shit. And you wouldn't think. But it does happen. It does happen from time to time. You know, so I rely on, you know, what AA has provided me to help me stay sober, you know, and, you know, it's, it's one of those things that, I mean, uh, we use, all right, since I'm retired from the medical community myself, let me give you Prince Magnum's medical definition of alcoholism and the treatment that AA provides in a medical terminology that I hope will kind of clarify a lot more than what I might read. Okay? Alcoholism and drug addiction are terminal diseases that affect a person mentally and physically. Yep. Um, okay. How about this little bit of tidbit information? Over here, there has been a study a few years back that about 12 ounces of coffee in the morning will actually help a person's cardiovascular system. But beyond that scope, it is not good for you. The caffeine dehydrates a person and is not good. And too much of it, if you will, is very damaging to the body. It's very hard on the cardiovascular system. It's hard on, the kidneys. It's hard on the liver. And for the record, everything that you pretty much just about everything you put in your body is hard on the liver. It is very hard on the liver. Now that I've said that, they do recommend about 12, a 12-ounce cup of coffee. Beyond that, no. Ironically enough, though, cardiologists will still recommend a 12-ounce cup, a 12-ounce glass of red wine to some of their heart patients, unless they're alcoholic. So some of those old treatments still work. They still work. After all these years, they still work. Energy drinks, yeah. I've seen a lot of people get addicted to energy drinks. And really, I mean, you can get addicted to just about anything if you're not careful. Yep. Again, caffeine. Yes. Um, yeah. Um, so let me, again, as I started to say, with alcoholism and drug addiction, they are terminal diseases that affect a person both physically and mentally. Without treatment, these are terminal illnesses, eventually killing the patient. But what Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous provides is a program that in its origins has psychology and some spiritual beliefs involved that provide a remedy that suppresses the symptoms of the addiction. That is the best way I can describe it. Yeah, you're experiencing withdrawals. Imagine for a brief moment that shaking and then going into cold sweats and being unable to focus, your vision narrowed down like this, your entire body feeling an extreme pain, like thousands of needles hitting your body at once. Absolutely, absolutely. And that was the yeah. So what I'm describing right now, that is what my withdrawals felt like. Everything I described to you, your whole body hurts. You get cold sweats, the shaking, your vision is narrowed down like this. It's very blurry. You're unable to concentrate. Thank you, Mikey G. And the entire time this is going on, you know full well that if you have a drink of alcohol, that'll go away. But if you do, you won't be able to stop again. So there's your dilemma. And I experienced just that. And I had to deal with that off and on for 6 months straight. Where the first couple weeks it was every other day, and then pretty soon it got to where it was once a week, and then eventually it was where it was about once every other week, and there at the end the severity of it got less and less as time progressed, but eventually it got to where I would just shake a little bit. But it took 6 months of dealing with that. I was in immense amount of pain in the early days. Yep, absolutely. And caffeine is considered a drug. But it's an acceptable one. Because it would suck if I had to quit drinking my coffee, which eventually I do imagine I'm going to have to do that. There's Sean. Good to see you, buddy. Glad you were able to make it in today. So that is why, that's why we're spending the time doing Sober Talk these days, to raise the awareness. Because ironically enough, most people would find this shocking, but it wasn't that terribly long ago. I was a couple years ago. It came down the pipeline that today a lot of people a lot younger than me, it is so hard for them to get sober. It's very hard for them to get sober nowadays. And Alcoholics Anonymous started looking at what the problem was, and immediately the rest of the fellowship more or less said, we know what the problem is. Couple of things. One, a lot of them are going to Narcotics Anonymous and not getting it focused towards their alcohol problem. Narcotics Anonymous is more of a specialty program. They really, true addicts are an extremely rare breed. It is actually more common to be an alcoholic more so than an addict, because they are a true special breed. And I mean that with the utmost respect to them, because most true addicts cannot get sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. That was why that program was developed in the 1970s. And I mean that with the utmost respect to them. Believe me when I say that those folks, the true addicts, I have a great admiration for them, because their disease is so severe. But those that are true alcoholics will sometimes go over there. A lot of us used phone conference calls. A lot of us used Zoom. We found ways. I did not do that. I would occasionally call up other alcoholics, but I basically increased the amount of time for Sober Talk. That's what I did. and raised awareness for throughout the pandemic and throughout all the lockdowns. That's what I did. So thank you so much, Brooklyn. That's what I did to reach others. Um, that's how I did it. I didn't know any other way other than to reach out the way that I did, because I knew that somewhere out there somebody would need what we were doing, and maybe seek out help. Along with that, if I helped one person, then it was worth it. If I saved one life, then it was worth it. Hey, am I the only one who's ever decided to strip down, cover himself in Vaseline, and pretend he was a slug? Am I the only one who's ever done that? Oh God. That's all right, Ian. Wait till the next collab. I've got a hell of a question for you. I got a hell of a question for you. Now you're worried, like, oh God. Oh God. Just for the record, just for the record, some of us alcoholics have found, you like that? Some of us alcoholics found there are certain things that we can do in sobriety as long as we have a willing partner or two. Right now, everyone's going, oh! As a matter of fact, I'm going to read a very, very important one. One that has actually reminded me to have fun. So I think you guys are going to appreciate this one. Read this little passage, and then we'll go ahead and let her out. I'm going to climb on Save the World and hang with y'all a little bit. Faye's Corner will be later on tonight, but I want to leave you guys with this one. You guys will really, really appreciate this. Just keep swinging away. Anyhow, we have been speaking to you of serious, sometimes tragic things. We have been dealing with alcohol in its worst aspect, but we aren't a glum lot. Okay, we'll hook you. If newcomers see no joy or fun in our existence, they wouldn't want it. We are absolutely insistent on enjoying life. We try not to indulge in cynicism over the state of the nations, nor do we carry the world's troubles on our shoulders. When we see a man sinking into the mire that is alcoholism, we give him first aid and place what we have at his disposal. For his sake, we do recount and almost relive the horrors of our past. But those of us who have tried to shoulder the entire burden and trouble of others, we find we are soon overcome by them. So we think cheerfulness and laughter make for usefulness. Outsiders are sometimes shocked when we burst into merriment over a seemingly tragic experience out of the past. But why shouldn't we laugh? We have recovered, and we have been given the power to help others. What they're talking about is the fact that you'll sometimes hear me joke about the crazy crap that I did. And you'll find that I love... Oh, there you go. Well, Ian, what if... I'm going to give you a scary thought. What if, after all the cinnamon stuff is done, The makeup doesn't come off right away. Bedroom's just right over there. And Princess Faye is sometimes still at home. So I will give you food for thought now. Just tuck that image into your head now. He's like, no, you sick bastard. Now he's like, the imagery is in his head. He can't get it out. You sick puppy. Just why? You're off. Okay. Awesome, Mikey G. Poor Ian. Just dying right now. Yep. There are some things we found is perfectly okay in sobriety, and we have a good time. I do have a lot of fun. If there was a message for my channel, any message, I mean, we do a lot of DIY, yes, and we do play a lot of video games, yes. But I'm gonna just put it out there, okay? If there was one, wouldn't be if it wasn't crazy. I love it. The biggest message that I try to provide on this channel at all times is a message of hope. You can enjoy life without a drink or a drug. And I do. Every minute of every day, I have fun. Life is too short. There are people that stay drunk and messed up because they don't think they'll have fun if they get sober. And I'm having a damn fun time. So when you see video games and when you see me working on something or doing romance stuff, I'm having a great time. I'm loving life. I've got the biggest smile on my face. I get to do acting on my channel. I get to make people laugh. I get to make people think. And I teach history. There you go. See? I have a good time. Live life to the max. Absolutely. You all have heard me tell the story of Tanya. You guys have heard that several times. And I will recount that story. But do you know she had a saying? Life is not about how many breaths you take. It's about how many you take away. And I know that's Shakespeare, but she had a saying she followed. And that was it. And if you need a quick translation, it's not about how long you live. It's about the quality of life you live. And that's what we try to provide here on the channel. When you guys tune into a live stream, no matter what it is, or tuning into, some video, I'm having a good time. And I'm asking y'all to come along with me. That's all right. Gives whole new meaning to wood for the win, right, Ian? See what I mean? So I have a good time. Absolutely. And I tell you all that, that's why if she left I tell her story because I know it'll help somebody. But for me, if there was anything she taught me, number one, don't forget to have a good time. She wanted me to get sober, but she also wants me to remember to have a good time. She wants me to enjoy life. And the other thing that she taught me was that it's okay to love again. I'm happily married. She taught me it was okay to love. And for that, I am forever grateful. And I continue to tell her story. You know, um, it's one of those stories that I speak it loud and proud. And I appreciate the lasting impact that she left on my life for obvious reasons. Alrighty, so that does bring us to a good stopping point now, doesn't it? We didn't get that much in the big book because, well, it brought up the right questions. And that is what I love. I love it when I can answer those questions. It's just boom. Yes. Yes. Alrighty. So we will get to more of the big book. We might have to start squeezing in more readings at this rate. I know, Ian, you love those. You're enjoying this, I know, because you have a lot of good questions. And Raven had some solid questions this time around. And I'm waiting for whenever Mikey G starts throwing some big ones. Actually, this is kind of a project I'm working on. And Cinnamon uses it for perversion. Oh, there you go. That's what's up. All righty. So that does bring us to a good stopping point for the evening. Well, for the afternoon for me. Some of you all, it's getting into the evening hours. So I guess that works. Evening, morning, wherever you are in the world, we're at that stopping point. So we let out a special way here on Sober Talk, and it goes a little like this. At day's end, I hope all of you need me as much as I need you. And for all of you out there, if no one out there has told you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you and have a happy 24. Thank you.